you can't see anyone from up here. Quite nice. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the introduction, Susan, as well. Yes, you were one of the people that interviewed me back in 2018, and I always feel a bit nervous around you. So, here we go. So, I'm Rachel. I'm a director at Alchemy, and I'm going to talk today a little bit about who we are, some of our previous projects and current projects, how we handle capacities. We have a tendency to refer to everything in the plural because we love to pick apart everything. So when we say we work with community, for example, we prefer to say communities. And I'm also going to show a film as well at the end of this presentation. So I think most of you will know, but I'm going to rattle through who Alchemy is. We're based in Hawick in the Scottish Borders, and we've been going since 2010. Since 2017-18, Alchemy began a period of transition where it became a year-round organisation, attaining regular funding from Creative Scotland and building a parallel programme of community engagement alongside its long-running film festival. This is a presentation about capacity, so I'm going to talk a lot about our projects and our structures and our values. We are a values-led organisation, and we provide inclusive and accessible ways to come together, have conversations, and creatively collaborate. And by that, we mean that we prioritise collective expression, creative learning, and critical thinking in all that we do. We love collaboration and partnerships. Most of our partnerships are actually non-arts partners. More and more recently, we are working with communities and groups that face significant barriers to cultural participation, such as Border Women's Aid, Borders Additional Needs Group, Borders After Suicide Working Group, people we refer to as first-time artists. We are part of a lot of networks. Creative Carbon Scotland, for example, we carbon manage and carbon report every year. We are a founding member of the Rural Art Network Scotland, and we are also involved in a new pilot to support artists with lived experience of displacement. And we're critically engaged, so everything we do involves prioritising inclusion, equity, and social justice. So all of these conversations that we're having today, environment, sustainability, digital, we can't separate any of those from conversations about fairness, equality, and equity. And something that's often not said, but needs said, we value warmth, hospitality, openness, humour, experimentation, creativity, and solidarity. And we're trying to put Hawick on the map as Scotland's film town. So a bit about what we do. Most of you might know Alchemy Film and Moving Image Festival. We've talked a bit today about digital pivots. So while Alchemy's been running since 2010, we have delivered 2 online digital festivals in 2020 and 21. The successes of that were that we were able to reach 20,000 people in 2020 and 25,000 in 2021. So that's a significant audience. And it also allowed people with various access needs, people with various neurodivergencies, to come to the festival in ways that felt safe and inclusive. We're returning to in-person events, and currently our sort of digital challenge is how to cater to an audience that we found online while maintaining our locally focused programme and also deliver meaningful in-person events. So from that, all of our events are inclusive and accessible. Our screenings are all captioned. We offer a range of audio described programmes, so that caters to audience that are deaf and hard of hearing and also blind and partially sighted. Captioned screenings also cater to neurodivergent audiences. The festival is also non-competitive, so we don't do competitions and we pay every artist at the same rate. We also prioritise a diverse range of programming, so employing staff and programmers with a diverse range of lived experience, which is very important. So Film Town is actually a newer project at Alchemy, which was established in 2019. And we really focus on a model of direct engagement with that. So rather than sort of putting up a poster and saying, anyone can come to this, we actually work a lot to develop partnerships and work with participants before we've even designed what the event is. We find that the people that might come to an event without necessarily needing to know what the space is like or what it is are often of a more privileged demographic, which we still would like to work with. But in order to work with people who do face barriers to creative participation, a lot of work goes into developing relationships and designing programs to suit. So that project involves a lot of community partners, themed projects of local interest, as I said, working with first-time filmmakers, methods of co-production, and really prioritising participation as well as audiences. So I'm going to go through what we've been working on since 2021, which people might know a bit less about. So in 2021, we were successful in running a culture collective program. So this is a program of artist residencies. So that's another kind of development and transition for Alchemy. We've done a few short-term residencies in the past, but this project has allowed us to run sort of 6-month to 12-month artists in residence. And it's not just inviting artists to come and make what they want, but artists come, they develop a project that has a local relevance, and it basically acts as a conduit for community groups and audiences to get involved throughout that project. So for example, Mark Lycan was our first artist in residence, and he worked with over 60 groups and individuals in Hawick and the Borders. This is him with the Hawick Saxhorn Band, which I think is the oldest saxhorn band in the UK. These funny facts that you learn. And it really platformed Hawick and its diverse communities. So Mark made a feature film, which is currently on tour. Jade Montserrat was our next artist, and Jade worked through the summer of 2021, and she created a filmmaking toolkit for young people. So that exists. It's welcome to anyone who would like it. It's basically a pack that invites young people to make their own film play, and it centers on themes of anti-racism, anti-capitalism, and anti-imperialism. Next, we worked with Miwa Nagatoa-Apthorpe, who created 2 original songs and established a singing group in Hawick. So another example of an artist creating outputs, but also making sure, as Alchemy, that we are building in participation and points of access for diverse communities. Don't know what that was. So yeah, Miwa focused on agricultural histories and really developed work on areas that are under-researched in Borders history. So her songs are actually on our website if you would like to listen to those. We've just seen Julia, so I'm going to talk about Julia. I can't see Julia, she's there. So Julia has actually created 4 new films, which will be premiered at Alchemy's Festival, taking place this year between 27th and 30th of April. Tickets will be available soon. And Julia's been focusing on heritage and culture of the textile industry and its impact on our environment, and also working through the summer with 16 to 25-year-olds on analogue filmmaking workshops. So the film we're going to watch later is actually from that workshop. And speaking as someone, I can operate and confidently run 16mm projectors, but I've never seen anyone so confident as this bunch of 16-year-old kids just getting involved, looping projectors, projecting digital and analog at the same time, and it was an amazing thing to witness. Viewfinders. So the final project I'll talk about, just as a bit of another example of what Alchemy's up to at the moment. Alchemy has a 2-year partnership with Scottish Borders Council through Paul Hamlin, where we're working with the 7 primary schools, so every primary school in Hawick, basically training and mentoring teachers to integrate film and filmmaking into the curriculum. So trying to establish that digital filmmaking through iPads primarily as much of a tool in a teacher's tool belt as writing or maths. And we have a teacher liaison role in place to facilitate that. So that kind of brings us onto capacity, because we couldn't work in that way without that kind of access to the schools. So in everything we do, we have sort of 3 pillars, 3 kind of golden rules that we consider. And we developed this in 2020 when we had to basically do a digital pivot. That any decision we made, we would consider, is this quality? Is it meaningful? And is what we're doing deliverable? So making sure that capacity and resources is as important as the quality of the artworks and the experience for audiences. So when we say quality, we're talking about artistic vision, we're talking about honouring best practice, we're talking about the curation being good and from diverse lived perspectives, the programmes being inclusive, again, representing diverse perspectives. And we're talking about access measures being of a high quality, so actually working with professional captioners, not just kind of write at our own, but actually honouring the professionalisms that are in our sector. Clearly communicating everything, having robust systems in place, policies in place. So that's safeguarding policies, inclusion policies, environmental policies, all of these things, actually practicing them. And a program that's informed by feedback, so actually speaking to the participants that we're working with. By meaningful, we're talking about experience. So we do everything values-led. We like to integrate humor and hospitality. We want to make sure that our spaces are inclusive. And that's, again, policies in practice. So it's fine to caption every film, but how does a deaf or hard of hearing audience know that we're there? How can it access our venues? And so on. So really integrating these things throughout everything that we do. Active participation. So we love our audiences, but we also want people to feel empowered and enabled to make their own films and platform their own stories. So it's not just the digital skills development that we focus on, but finding ways that people can express what they want to say. And finally, deliverable. So in all that we do, and this is the biggest thing about capacity, we get, a lot of opportunities and calls for projects, and we go through these frameworks. In all that we do, everyone needs to be paid fairly. Artists need to be paid at Scottish Artists Union rates. And right there, that kind of dictates your capacity. If you're doing too much that you can't pay your artists, just do less. Things like that. Considering workloads at every point, making sure people aren't overworking, upholding safeguarding for staff, participants, thinking through resources, thinking through partnerships, again, building in access measures, really managing expectations of everyone that's involved. And I put here being flexible in the right places. So I've gone through quite a lot of things that appear quite dry. No one really wants to talk about policies. But if these things are in place and everyone is safeguarded and your space is inclusive, then you can be experimental and you can be flexible to things like pandemics, which are horrific, but you can actually pivot and make sure that you're for audiences and for participants. So we've found that if these things are in check, we can be flexible. Okay, so that's us that's me talked a bit about what we're up to, some of our recent projects, and how we kind of check our own capacities and delivery. And now you get a film. So it's fine for me to tell you all this, but the real work is in the artwork that we produce and we facilitate. So this is a Super 8 film that was facilitated by Julia Parks as part of our summer filmmaking programme, which saw, I think, 16 to 30-year-olds come together in Wilton Park and Heart of Hawick and play with film, experimenting with plant-based methods and analogue and digital technology. So please enjoy. Thank you. Thank you.